Okay, guys, we are going to be going over homework number 5, and this is under classwork in week 1.4. And then right here it says homework number 5. Remember that this assignment here is not from your book. This is directly on here, so you will need a separate sheet of paper to work these out. Okay, so make sure you first fill in your name. Okay, then you put your class period. And then down here is where they start. Right here, you have your options, but these are the possible answer choices for every single one, and none of them repeat. So if you get an answer and it is not here, okay, then you might have done something wrong. You have to go back and double check your steps, okay? But I am going to try to help you through this, okay? This first one here is a one-step equation, and these are similar to the ones you had in 6th grade. So let's begin, okay? Make this a little smaller. Okay, so this is 10 equals 5x. So I'm going to rewrite it here. 10 equals 5x. Now, I need to first identify my variable, which is x. Now, what is attached to the x? Okay, I have a 5. What is between the 5 and the x? It may not look like there's anything, but we should understand that there is something. There is an imaginary dot, which means to multiply. And in order to be able to get rid of the 5 and move it to the other side of the equal sign so that we can solve for x and keep x by itself, we'd have to do the opposite. Okay? So what is the opposite of multiply? Or the inverse, shall I say, of multiplication? Divide, right? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to divide this by 5. And 5 divided by 5 ends up being 1. Okay? And that 1 is what we want to have. We want to have 1x on this side. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we're going to divide the 10 by 5. So what is 10 divided by 5? If you're not sure, remember we're in 8th grade, we have our calculators and we may use them. So you would get out 10 divided by 5 and you get 2. So you're left with 2, you bring down the equal sign, and then you're left with x. We don't write the 1x, it's understood that there is 1 of x. We don't have to write 1x so that we understand that there's only 1x left. And this right here is my answer. So I would go in here, look for my options, and I see that there's a 2. So I know it is a possible answer choice. Okay? Now, remember, we need to be writing this on a separate sheet of paper because if you do not get to finish this in one sit down, then you don't have your answers recorded on a paper and you come back to it later, it doesn't save your responses. So you need to make sure that when you do this, you do it on a separate sheet of paper so that when you're finally done, which hopefully should be by today, because that's when this is due, the 22nd of September, that's when you can submit it. Okay? So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to move down. Okay. Now, this one here, again, it is another one-step equation. Now, we do have a parentheses, so that does seem like it throw it off. But remember, if you see subtraction, okay, you can do keep, change. So I can keep the 8, I can change the subtraction to a plus, and I can change my negative to a positive. And if I want to rewrite it to just clean it up, I'll rewrite it right here. 12 is equal to a plus 8. So now, what is keeping the a from being by itself? The plus 8. So I'm going to do the inverse of plus 8. What is the inverse of addition? Subtraction, right? So I'm going to subtract by 8. Positive 8 minus 8 is going to be 0. So that cancels out. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to subtract by 8. So now what is 12 minus 8? Okay, again, we have our calculators. This should be easy. I understand that. And most of you probably don't need it for this, but I'd rather you make sure you get a correct answer, especially when we get to the integer rules part, because some of us, that's where we make our mistakes. So use those calculators. We're gonna have that option. We're gonna be able to use them throughout the test. Okay, so it's 4, right? So 4, bring down my equal sign, and now I'm left with my a. So 4 equals a, or a equals 4. I go in here, I look for my answer choice, okay, and it is right here. Okay, awesome. So those are two-step equations. Okay, those are one-step equations. Now I'm gonna jump to one. These are all, so far, all of these are one-step equations. Okay. Um, let's try this one here. This is also one step, okay, but it's a little bit different from the addition and subtraction. So here we have 320 equals 20n. Well, clearly we have the 20 that's attached to the n. Remember that we need to understand that between there is an imaginary dot. It means multiplication. So what is the inverse of multiplication? Right, division. So I'm going to divide by 20. 20 divided by 20 is 1. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So 320 divided by 20. Pull out the calculator. 320 divided by 20, 16. So then I have 16 is equal to n. Simple. One-step equations. Okay. We should already, with all the practice that we have done so far, and with going over it and giving you another refresher, we should be okay on these first few. Okay. Hopefully. I really do hope. Okay. Okay, let's move on to this one, because these are where the two-step equations start. Now, this is still 7th grade, okay, but I understand that we still need a lot of practice on this. So I have 3 plus r over 10, okay? Now, what am I going to do first? Well, when you have a two-step equation, you want to ask yourself, what is the furthest thing away from the variable? In this case, r. What is the furthest thing away from it? That is on this side of the equal sign. Okay, we're not going to look at anything that's on the right side. We're looking at only the side where the variable is at. What's the furthest away? You might think that it's the 10 because it's on the bottom, but really and truly r and 10 are kind of together, because this is like 1 over 10 r. So they're kind of attached. What's separate or further away would be the positive 3. So this is what I got to do first. I got to get rid of the 3. I got to do the inverse of positive 3, which is, right, negative 3. So 3 minus 3, that is 0. That cancels out. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So minus 3. So now what is 5 minus 3? Right, it's 2. So I'm going to bring down what I have. 2 is equal to, and then I'm going to bring the r over the 10. Now I'm down to a one-step equation. What is in the way now? The 10. And this is a division bar. So what is the inverse of division? Right, multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 10. This, I'm going to cancel out. What I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So what is 2 times 10? Right, 20. Equals r. And that's it. That's my two-step equation. Let me go and double check. I look for 20, and it's right here. So that's two-step. Let's try one more with the two-step. Let's try this one down here. So this one and this one are very similar. So if you get this one, you'll be able to understand and do this one. So I have b minus 9 divided by 5. Okay, is equal to negative 4. Again, I want to ask myself, what is the furthest thing away from the variable, in this case b? Is it the 9 or is it the 5? right? It should be the 5 because the 9 is attached to the b with the subtraction. So the furthest thing away is the 5. So I have a division bar. So the inverse of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply. They cancel out. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So negative 4 times 5 is going to give me negative 20. Because remember, a negative times a positive is a negative, or a negative divided by a positive is also a negative. Do not get your integer rules mixed up with division, multiplication, and addition and subtraction. They are different. Okay, this is why I say get used to using the calculator, because I'd rather you not make these simple mistakes that we make, and then it throws your answer all off. So now I'm going to bring the rest. I have b minus 9. So I have the minus 9 that is in the way from getting b by itself. So what am I going to do? What's the inverse of negative 9 or minus 9? Addition, right? So plus 9. So negative 9 plus 9 cancels out. That zeroes out. What I do to one side, I got to do to the other. Let me put it here. So 9, positive. Now guess what? Different signs. What's the integer rule? What's the integer rule? Different signs, right? Subtract. So what is 20 minus 9? I'm going to take my calculator out. I'm going to 20 minus 9, 11. But I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number. Which is the bigger number? The 20, and it's negative. So this is negative. Now, that's what I mean by the integer rules. But if you're not sure, or you get confused with your integer rules, you have this plus negative on most of your basic calculators, and that's going to turn into a negative. So you would just put 20. You got to put the number first usually. Push the negative, so now it's a negative 20, and then just put plus 9. And it gives you negative 11. So we don't make those integer rule mistakes. But in case, if you do know it, which I hope you do, then you would know it's negative 11. And you bring down the b, and this is what you have. B is equal to negative 11. Let's double check to see if our answer is here. And it's down here. Now, of course, we can substitute to double check our answer. How would we substitute? We would go in, we would rewrite it, but replace the b with the negative 11. So you would do negative 11 minus 9 over 5 is equal to 4, or negative 4 actually. So how could I double check? Well, I'm going to keep change. So now I have a negative plus a negative. So it's going to be a negative because we're adding. Remember, we're not multiplying or dividing, so it's not going to be a positive. It's a negative. So 11 plus 9 is 20, which is negative 20. So now I'm left with negative 20 divided by 5 is equal to negative 4. And what is negative 20 divided by 5? Negative 4. Is negative 4 equal to negative 4? Yes, so it checks out. So that's how we substitute, okay? And you can do that to double check. Okay, good. So now this one is exactly like this one down here. So you follow the same steps. Let's go down to this one here with the parentheses. Negative 2 parentheses x minus 6 close parentheses equal to negative 4. So again, what is the furthest thing away from the variable? The parentheses keeps this together. So if this is together, the only thing that's separate from the, or the furthest away from this, is the negative 2. When you have a number next to parentheses, this means to multiply. There's an imaginary dot there. You're going to multiply. So if I want to get rid of the negative 2, I got to do the inverse of times negative 2. So what's the opposite? Right, I got to divide by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 turns into 1. That cancels them out. Now I'm going to do what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So I'm going to do -4 divided by -2. Negative divided by a negative should give me a positive. So what is 4 divided by 2? It's 2 equals, and bring down the rest. And now you no longer need the parentheses because you already know that this is together. So now I have a one-step equation. What's the inverse of -6 or subtract 6? We add 6. This zeroes out. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So 2 plus 6 is 8 equal to x. And that's it. We go here, we look for 8. It's up there to the very top. So that's this one, okay? And let me clear this. And let's go. Okay, so you should be okay with the rest of them. All right, make sure that you do this. If you still need further help, guys, I am available from 3:25 to 4 o'clock in my office hours. We need to start utilizing that a lot more because a lot of us still need that extra help to make sure that we're understanding and getting our assignments done. Okay, so let's keep up the good work, but we need you to do your part. Okay, if you have any other questions with any of this, please let me know. Okay, we are here to help. Good job, guys. Keep it up.